Welcome, dear listener, to this quiet space where science becomes a gentle companion to rest. This story belongs to Sleeping with Science, a place where we explore the wonders of the natural world, not with urgency, but with calm curiosity. Tonight, we begin a journey into the hidden science of digestion, a process so familiar and yet so mysterious, unfolding within you every day. Before we begin, let me reassure you, this story is created for relaxation. If sleep comes quickly, let it take you. If it lingers at the edge and does not arrive right away, that too is perfectly fine. You are not here to chase rest. You are here to drift, to listen, to be carried by words and images. Sleep will find you in its own time, as surely as night turns to morning. If you find comfort in these journeys, I invite you gently to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your presence here helps us create more stories, more pathways into knowledge, more spaces where learning and rest can meet. Now, let us begin. Digestion is a word we all know, yet the processes it names remain largely invisible. We eat, we taste, we feel hunger and satisfaction, but the vast symphony beneath those sensations is hidden. Tonight, we will walk quietly through that unseen world. From the first stirrings of hunger to the final release of energy, we will follow food on its journey, watching how it becomes part of us. Imagine for a moment the body as a silent workshop. Every system, every organ, every cell works in harmony, yet no single voice announces itself. Digestion begins before the first bite, in the mind, in the senses, in the very anticipation of nourishment. It continues in waves of chemistry and motion, where acids, enzymes, and microbes act with precision. It ends not with the food itself, but with what food becomes: energy, renewal, and life. As we step into this exploration, let us do so slowly. There is no rush here. Just as the body does not demand speed but patience, so too this story will unfold at a gentle pace. With each chapter, we will travel deeper, pausing to reflect, pausing to breathe. It may help to think of digestion not as a routine but as a story written within you, one that began long before you were born. Our ancestors relied on it for survival, adapting across generations to extract nourishment from the world around them. Every meal you take continues that story, connecting you to all who came before. The bread on your plate, the fruit in your hand, the water you sip, each is transformed by a system that has evolved across millennia. Tonight, you do not need to understand every detail. You only need to listen, to let the rhythm of the words guide you. Where there are scientific terms, they will come softly, explained without haste. Where there are processes too small to see, they will be described like landscapes in the imagination. The aim is not to overwhelm, but to carry you gently. So let us step into the first chapter of this hidden journey. Picture yourself standing at the threshold of an inner world, where senses awaken, signals stir, and the body prepares for nourishment. This is where the story begins, not in the stomach, not in the intestines, but in the quiet anticipation of the very first bite. And as we begin, may you find not only knowledge but also rest. For inside you, even now, this journey is unfolding, as constant as breath, as ancient as life itself. Hunger is often felt as a simple emptiness in the stomach, a soft, gnawing reminder that it is time to eat. But beneath that sensation lies a delicate and ancient conversation between the brain, the body, and the chemistry that flows within. This chapter invites you to step into that conversation, to hear its whispers, and to see hunger not as discomfort but as guidance. Inside your body, hormones move like messengers. Ghrelin, often called the hunger hormone, rises when energy stores grow low. It travels through the blood to the brain, reaching the hypothalamus, a small but powerful region that balances appetite, sleep, and temperature. When ghrelin arrives, it is as if a note has been delivered. Fuel is needed, nourishment must return. In response, the mind begins to send signals of interest, thoughts of food, subtle cravings, the spark of desire. Alongside ghrelin, another voice speaks: leptin. This hormone is released by fat cells, telling the brain when energy stores are full. Ghrelin calls us to the table. Leptin invites us to leave it, satisfied. Together, they create a rhythm of need and satiety, a balance as old as life itself. The listener is reminded that hunger is not an enemy, but a compass. It points us towards survival, guiding us gently to the resources that sustain us. Yet hunger is more than chemistry. It is also shaped by memory and environment. The smell of baking bread drifting from a kitchen, the sight of ripe fruit glistening on a table, these cues awaken anticipation. The brain recalls flavors, textures, and the comfort of past meals. In that moment, the senses and hormones intertwine, each amplifying the other. Hunger becomes both biological and emotional, physical and cultural. This is why we sometimes crave food, not out of true need, but out of association. A certain dish may remind you of childhood, a warm meal shared with family, or the comfort of a safe place. In those moments, hunger is a bridge between body and memory. It is not only about calories, but about connection. As we reflect on this, the meditative tone deepens. Hunger is not merely the absence of food, but the presence of life's rhythm. It is the body's quiet way of reminding us that we are alive, that we need, and that we are capable of replenishment. To feel hunger is to feel part of the natural order, woven into the cycles of day and night, work and rest. It is worth remembering that in humanity's earliest days, hunger was not simply a signal to eat, but a signal to act. It spurred our ancestors to forage, to hunt, to explore. Without hunger, there would have been no reason to venture into unknown landscapes, no drive to discover new foods, no adaptation that shaped survival. In this sense, hunger has always been a companion of growth, urging us forward into the future. As you listen now, perhaps you notice your own hunger, or perhaps not. Either way, know that within you, these signals rise and fall in gentle waves, invisible yet steady. You do not need to respond to them immediately. The body is patient. Hunger comes and goes like the tide, reminding us that balance is always near. The chapter closes with a reflection. Hunger, often seen as emptiness, is in truth an invitation. It is the first step in the great journey of digestion, the opening of a door that leads from the outer world into the inner. It is not a demand but a whisper, not a command but a song. And as we follow its call, we begin to see the hidden story that food writes within us. Long before food reaches the mouth, the senses awaken to meet it. A drifting aroma from a kitchen, the sight of colors on a plate, even the faint memory of a favorite meal, all of these stir the body to prepare. Digestion begins not with swallowing, but with anticipation. The orchestra is already tuning, instruments softly humming before the first note is played. The sense of smell is especially powerful in this prelude. Tiny molecules rise from food and travel through the air, carried into the nose with each breath. There they meet the olfactory bulb, a structure at the base of the brain designed to recognize them. Within moments, electrical signals spread into deeper regions, linking scent to memory and emotion. This is why the smell of freshly baked bread can transport someone to childhood, or the scent of herbs can awaken memories of a summer afternoon. The nose is not only a detector of food, but a bridge to the past. Taste joins this silent chorus. On the surface of the tongue rest thousands of taste buds, each a cluster of receptor cells. They recognize 5 basic qualities: sweet, sour, salty, bitter, and umami. Together they form a language of flavor. Sweetness signals energy, often in the form of sugars. Sourness warns of ripeness or spoilage. Saltiness ensures mineral balance. Bitterness can protect against toxins, while umami, the taste of glutamate, reveals protein-rich nourishment. These are not random pleasures, but ancient signals carved into our biology. As smell and taste combine, the experience of flavor becomes rich and multidimensional. The brain does not separate them but weaves them together into a tapestry. Imagine the crispness of an apple, its sweetness carried by taste buds, its freshness carried by aroma, its memory carried by the mind. Every bite is a union of chemistry and perception. Science names this early phase of digestion the cephalic phase, meaning of the head. It is here that the nervous system prepares the stomach for what is to come. Just by smelling or tasting, Signals travel from the brainstem to the stomach, prompting glands to begin releasing acid and enzymes. Even before swallowing, the stomach is awake, ready, waiting. This quiet preparation saves time, ensuring that once food arrives, digestion is already underway. Yet beyond the science, there is poetry in these senses. To taste is to be present. To smell is to be connected. To memory, to culture, to the seasons of life. A spice can tell of a distant land. A single flavor can remind us of family, of rituals, of comfort. Eating is never only about sustaining the body. It is about nourishing the whole being, mind and spirit included. The meditative reflection here is simple. Pay attention, if only for a moment, to the scents and flavors that surround you. They are more than fleeting pleasures. They are gateways into deeper processes, invisible but essential, that carry food from the outer world into your inner self. As this chapter draws to a close, the listener is invited to recognize the art of smell and taste, not as trivial details, but as profound beginnings. They awaken the body, stir the mind, and prepare the hidden systems within. With every aroma and every flavor, the journey of digestion moves forward, gently and quietly, even before the first swallow. When we think of digestion, we often picture the stomach or the intestines, but the true beginning lies in something far more subtle: saliva. It slips into every moment of eating, so quiet and constant that most of us barely notice it. And yet, without saliva, the digestive journey would stumble at its very first step. Saliva is mostly water, but within that clear stream rests a hidden chemistry. Among its components is amylase, an enzyme that begins breaking down starch into simple sugars. A bite of bread, a spoonful of rice, a piece of fruit, even as they rest on the tongue, amylase is already at work, unraveling long chains of carbohydrates into smaller fragments. The sweetness that sometimes seems to grow as we chew is no accident. It is the science of saliva, transforming complexity into simplicity, preparing food for the deeper journey ahead. But saliva's role is larger still. It moistens food, softening edges, and binding fragments together into what scientists call a bolus, a small, manageable package ready for swallowing. Without this moistening, food would remain sharp, dry, and difficult to move. Saliva turns the act of eating into something smooth and effortless, protecting delicate tissues from harm. Saliva also shields. It contains proteins and antibodies that guard against bacteria, keeping the mouth safe. It washes across teeth and gums, neutralizing acids, reducing the risk of decay. Every sip of saliva is a silent act of cleansing, a tide that refreshes without our command. Even in sleep, when we are unaware, it continues to flow in small amounts, preserving balance. The meditative reflection here is simple. Consider how often you swallow in a day, hundreds, perhaps thousands of times. Each moment is accompanied by saliva, flowing, supporting, guarding, breaking down. It is an unbroken rhythm of care, unnoticed because it is so constant. The body asks for no thanks, and yet it gives this gift endlessly. There is also poetry in the fact that saliva is tied so closely to anticipation. The smell of food, the sight of it, even the thought of it, can trigger its flow. Pavlov's famous experiment with dogs, who began to salivate at the sound of a bell associated with food, revealed what we now know to be true for all animals. Saliva is not simply mechanical but anticipatory. It is the body's way of leaning forward into what is to come, of preparing the mouth for nourishment even before the first bite arrives. And beyond science, saliva connects to the human experience of sharing food. It carries enzymes that make communal eating possible, allowing us to enjoy flavors and textures together without strain. When you taste a meal, savor a sweet, or chew a grain, saliva is there, painting each sensation more vividly. Imagine saliva not as something trivial or overlooked, but as the first river of digestion. It flows gently, quietly, shaping every meal, sustaining every bite. It is water and chemistry, cleansing and protecting, anticipating and preparing. Without it, food would remain hard and unbroken. Digestion would stumble, nourishment would delay. In its simplicity lies its power. In its silence lies its necessity. Saliva, though humble, is the secret prelude to the great journey of digestion, the river that begins it all. At first glance, chewing seems like the simplest of acts. Teeth rise and fall, the jaw moves side to side, and food breaks apart into smaller pieces. Yet within this ordinary motion lies one of the most essential foundations of digestion. Chewing is not merely a preparation for swallowing, it is the first act of transformation, turning raw material into something the body can truly receive. The mechanics themselves are fascinating. The jaw is powered by some of the strongest muscles in the human body, the masseter and temporalis. With each bite, they generate forces that can crush, grind, and shear, breaking food into fragments small enough to mix thoroughly with saliva. The tongue, agile and sensitive, acts as a guide, moving food to where the teeth can best do their work. In this way, chewing is less an automatic process and more a carefully coordinated choreography. As food breaks apart, its surface area increases dramatically. This is more than a physical change. It is a scientific advantage. The greater the surface area, the easier it becomes for enzymes to reach every particle. A whole nut or grain resists digestion, but when ground finely by teeth, its nutrients are unlocked. Chewing, therefore, is not only mechanical, but chemical in its implications. It determines how fully the body can later absorb energy. Modern life often rushes this stage. Meals are swallowed quickly, chewed only a few times before moving on. Yet science reminds us that slow chewing supports better digestion. Studies show that those who chew longer experience improved satiety and smoother absorption of nutrients. Each bite held longer in the mouth gives enzymes more time to work, reducing the burden on the stomach and intestines later on. There is also mindfulness in chewing. To chew slowly is to notice, to taste more deeply, to experience food with awareness. In this way, chewing bridges biology and meditation. It brings calm to the nervous system, allowing the body to shift gently into the parasympathetic state, often called rest and digest. In this state, digestion flows more smoothly, heart rate slows, and the mind finds quiet. Something as ordinary as chewing becomes a pathway to presence. Chewing also connects us to culture and ritual. Around the world, meals are not only about nutrients but about rhythm. The shared sound of chewing at a family table, the laughter that interrupts it, the silence of appreciation. These moments remind us that eating is a communal act, and at the center of it all, chewing shapes the pace, giving meals their texture and time. Reflection draws us to the image of chewing as the first act of kindness we give to our own bodies. To chew carefully is to ease the journey for everything that follows. It is like smoothing a path before walking, ensuring that the way ahead will be lighter and safer. Each deliberate bite is an act of care, invisible yet vital. As this chapter closes, the listener is invited to imagine their own body in motion, the quiet strength of the jaw, the subtle guidance of the tongue, the flow of saliva binding everything together. In these small, unnoticed gestures, an ancient wisdom is at work. Chewing transforms not only food but the entire journey of digestion. It is the beginning of nourishment, the moment where awareness and survival meet. In the humble act of chewing, the power of digestion truly begins. Swallowing feels like the most natural of actions. You chew, you move the tongue, and the food simply disappears down a hidden passage. Yet what seems so effortless is, in truth, one of the most complex reflexes the body performs. More than 30 muscles, guided by several cranial nerves, work in perfect harmony, ensuring that each swallow is smooth, safe, and precise. The act of swallowing begins when the tongue presses the softened bolus of food toward the back of the mouth. In that instant, an automatic cascade begins. The soft palate lifts, closing off the nasal cavity, while the epiglottis, a small flap of cartilage, tilts down to cover the windpipe. This motion protects the airway, sending food into the esophagus instead of the lungs. It all happens in less than a second, repeated dozens of times a day, yet rarely noticed. Science describes swallowing as divided into 3 phases: oral, pharyngeal, and esophageal. The oral phase is under conscious control, but once the bolus reaches the back of the throat, the reflex takes over, and the process cannot be stopped. Muscles contract in a precise sequence, pushing food past the throat into the esophagus. In the esophageal phase, waves of muscular contractions, known as peristalsis, guide the bolus downward. The listener is reminded that even lying flat or upside down, these waves would still carry food to the stomach. Such is the quiet reliability of this system. Beyond its mechanics, swallowing carries symbolic weight. It is a threshold, the moment when the outer world crosses into the inner. What was once separate from us becomes part of us. In this sense, swallowing is not only biological but also poetic, an acceptance, a transition, a joining. Every swallow is a silent promise that nourishment is on its way. The meditative reflection is one of trust. We do not need to command the muscles of swallowing, nor do we need to monitor each phase. The reflex is older than thought, embedded in our nervous system, carried out faithfully since birth. Even in sleep, when awareness is absent, swallowing still occurs, keeping the airway clear and the body safe. Because this is a moment to remind the listener of rest, the connection is drawn gently. Just as swallowing happens without effort, so too does sleep. We do not force it, we allow it. The body knows what to do. It has known since the beginning. To trust swallowing is to trust the body itself, and to trust the body is to ease into rest. Swallowing also connects us to community. To share food with others is to share this hidden reflex in unison, a table of people moving through the same sequence, silent but joined. Around the world, the act of swallowing is embedded in ritual, in prayer before meals, in gratitude for nourishment. The science of reflex and muscle is therefore interwoven with culture and meaning. The listener is invited to appreciate swallowing not as an afterthought, but as one of the body's most extraordinary gifts. It is a choreography so intricate that even advanced machines struggle to replicate it, yet it is performed by children and elders alike without hesitation. Each swallow is a quiet triumph of precision and protection, a moment of trust in the hidden intelligence of life. Once the swallow is complete, food enters a quiet passage that rarely comes to mind. The esophagus. It is a tube about 25 centimeters long, connecting the mouth to the stomach, but its role is far more than that of a simple channel. The esophagus is a mover, a guide, a silent courier carrying nourishment safely downward. The motion that propels food is called peristalsis, a series of muscular waves traveling along the esophageal wall. Each wave is coordinated, beginning at the top and moving smoothly toward the bottom, pushing the bolus of food forward. To the listener, it may be helpful to imagine gentle ripples spreading across water, or a hand rolling a pearl along a narrow path. What seems effortless is, in truth, a carefully timed cascade of contractions. Gravity plays a part when we sit or stand, but the esophagus does not depend on it. Even if you were lying flat or turned upside down, peristalsis would still carry food into the stomach. This reliability speaks to the wisdom of the body. Digestion does not rely on circumstances. It carries on faithfully in every position, in every moment. At the upper end of the esophagus lies a sphincter that opens to allow the bolus to pass from the throat. At the lower end, another sphincter waits, guarding the entrance to the stomach. These muscular rings ensure that food moves only in one direction, preventing air from entering below and acid from rising above. Their work is hidden, but essential to balance. There is no digestion in the esophagus itself. No enzymes are released here, no acids break food apart. Instead, it serves as a bridge, a transition space, a quiet corridor. In its simplicity lies its importance. Without it, no food could pass safely from the world outside to the deeper chambers within. Reflecting on this, one can see parallels in life. Sometimes it is not the places of transformation that matter most, but the passages between them. The esophagus does not change food, but it ensures that change can happen later. It is a reminder that transitions, though often overlooked, are vital. The body performs this task without request, without thought. We swallow, and the esophagus responds, wave after wave, guiding food to its destination. This hidden reliability is part of what allows us to live without constant attention to our inner world. Trust is built into us, the trust that food will arrive safely, that the system will hold steady. As this stage comes to a close, imagine the esophagus as a quiet tunnel, dark and unseen, yet alive with motion. It is a passageway, nothing more and nothing less, yet through it passes the essence of every meal, every act of nourishment. In silence and steadiness, it carries us forward into the next chapter of digestion, the meeting with the stomach, where transformation begins in earnest. At the end of the esophagus lies a small but powerful structure, the lower esophageal sphincter. It is not large, not dramatic in appearance, yet its task is vital. This muscular ring stands guard at the boundary between the esophagus and the stomach, opening when needed, closing just as quickly, ensuring that the direction of travel is always one way. When a wave of peristalsis delivers the bolus of food to its base, the sphincter relaxes, allowing entry into the stomach. Once the passage is complete, it tightens again, sealing the doorway. This rhythm of release and closure prevents a dangerous reversal, the upward surge of acid from the stomach. Without this defense, the lining of the esophagus, delicate and unprotected, would be burned by corrosive fluids. Science names this process reflux when the gate falters. For many, it comes as heartburn, a discomfort rising into the chest. Such moments reveal how important this hidden guardian truly is. Most of the time, it performs without fail, unnoticed, unappreciated, yet indispensable to health. The lower esophageal sphincter also responds to cues beyond food. Hormones, posture, even emotional states can influence its strength. Stress may loosen it, while calmness helps it hold. In this, we see again how digestion and emotion intertwine, each shaping the other. The meditative reflection here is on boundaries. The body is full of them: membranes, valves, barriers, gates. Each allows certain things in, keeps certain things out, maintaining order in the midst of flow. This sphincter is one such boundary, not rigid but dynamic, opening and closing with precision. Boundaries are not about denial, they are about balance. Without them, harmony dissolves. Consider how often in life a boundary allows safety. A lock on a door, a pause before speaking, a limit set in kindness. These too are sphincters of a kind, shaping the passage between what is outside and what is allowed within. The body mirrors this truth at every level, reminding us that balance requires both openness and restraint. In the darkness of the digestive tract, the lower esophageal sphincter carries out this lesson silently. Food arrives, the gate yields, and then closes firmly. The process repeats meal after meal, year after year, without our conscious awareness. To reflect on it now is to see the hidden care built into us, the small yet powerful mechanisms that protect life. As the chapter settles, imagine this gate not as a simple muscle, but as a vigilant sentinel, always watching, always ready to act. Its work is unseen, yet its value immense. With the passage open, food has crossed into the stomach, where transformation awaits. The journey has reached a threshold, and soon the power of acid and motion will begin their work. The moment food passes the sphincter and enters the stomach, it encounters an environment unlike any it has known before. Here, darkness is matched by intensity. The stomach secretes hydrochloric acid, a substance so powerful it could corrode metal, yet within the body it is safely contained, harnessed for transformation. This is where digestion shifts from preparation to profound change. Hydrochloric acid has several tasks. It unravels proteins, loosening the bonds that hold their complex shapes together. This process, called denaturation, is the first step toward breaking them into usable amino acids. At the same time, the acid activates pepsinogen, turning it into pepsin, an enzyme that begins cleaving proteins into smaller fragments. In this way, acid does not only destroy, it creates the conditions for new work to unfold. The stomach is not unprotected against its own corrosive power. A thick lining of mucus coats its inner walls, forming a barrier that shields tissue from harm. Beneath this layer, bicarbonate neutralizes any acid that comes too close. Without these defenses, the stomach would digest itself. What seems like chaos is in fact balance, destruction met with protection, power paired with restraint. This environment also guards against invaders. Many bacteria and pathogens cannot survive the acid bath of the stomach. In this way, digestion is also defense. Every meal carries risks from the outside world, yet most threats dissolve before they can pass further. The stomach is both furnace and fortress. Reflection turns to the paradox of acid. It is dangerous, yet essential. Like fire that warms a home but can also burn it down, hydrochloric acid must be respected. The body holds it within strict boundaries, releasing it at the right times, limiting it to the right places. To live is to live with forces that are both creative and destructive, and the stomach is a reminder of how those forces can be harnessed wisely. The stomach does not remain still as this chemistry unfolds. Muscular walls churn rhythmically, mixing food with acid and enzymes, reducing it to a semi-liquid substance called chyme. The motion ensures that every fragment is touched, every surface exposed. By the time the stomach is finished, food is no longer recognizable as what it once was. It has become something new, prepared for the next phase of absorption. And yet, even in this cauldron of activity, there is order. Acid secretion is carefully regulated by signals from the brain, hormones, and nerves. The body does not flood itself with acid at random. It releases it only when food is present, when it is truly needed. In this way, the stomach demonstrates both power and precision. As you reflect on this stage, imagine the stomach not as a place of violence, but as a chamber of transformation. Within it, what was once bread, fruit, or grain is being reshaped into the raw materials of life. The outer world is becoming inner essence, dissolved into forms the body can use. It is a reminder that change, even when it looks fierce, often leads to renewal. The first stage of digestion has unfolded, from the spark of hunger to the careful work of chewing, from the effortless swallow to the gate of the stomach, and finally into the embrace of acid and motion. The journey so far has been one of preparation and transformation. What began as familiar food has already become something else, softened and reshaped, ready for the deeper processes that lie ahead. This chapter is a pause, a chance to reflect before continuing. Digestion is not only about chemistry and mechanics, it is about rhythm. Each step flows into the next with patience. Nothing rushes, nothing hurries. Food waits in the stomach for the right moment to move forward, and the body decides that timing carefully. In this pause, we can recognize that the same rhythm carries us too. Life, like digestion, unfolds in cycles, with moments of activity and moments of stillness. Within the stomach, chyme is forming, a smooth mixture of nutrients, liquid, and enzymes. It is not yet ready for absorption, but it is no longer what it once was. The transformation is already underway. This in-between state is essential. Just as seeds rest in soil before sprouting, food rests here before its hidden energy can be fully released. The stomach is not a place of finality but of waiting. Its muscular walls contract in waves, blending and holding, while its gates remain closed until the timing is right. When the pyloric sphincter eventually opens, chyme will move into the small intestine, where the richest work of digestion begins. For now, though, it remains here, a moment between what was and what will be. Reflection turns outward as well. In our lives, transitions often feel uneventful, yet they hold great importance. The pause between breaths, the silence between notes of music, the space between seasons, these are not empty, they are vital. They allow change to settle, to prepare the ground for what comes next. The stomach, quietly holding and mixing, embodies this truth. To the listener, this chapter is an invitation to rest within a transition. The first act of digestion is complete, the next is waiting. There is no need to hurry. Just as food is patient in the stomach, so too can we be patient with ourselves. Every stage has its own pace, its own necessity. As part I comes to a close, imagine the body as a landscape with many chambers. The journey has begun at the surface, through hunger, senses, and mouth, and has now reached this deep chamber of transformation. What lies ahead is more intricate still: the unfolding of the small intestine, the chorus of enzymes, the voices of the microbiome. But before we step into that world, let us rest in this moment of stillness, acknowledging the beauty of what has already taken place. The stomach is often imagined as a simple container, a hollow bag where food rests before moving on. But in truth, it is far more active, more precise, more powerful than that picture suggests. It is a chamber of transformation, a place where chemistry and motion combine to break food apart and prepare it for absorption. Hydrochloric acid is the stomach's most striking tool. This substance is released in concentrated bursts, strong enough to dissolve bones and metals in the laboratory, yet safely contained within the folds of the stomach lining. Its purpose is to denature proteins, to loosen and unravel their intricate three-dimensional structures. What was once firm and resistant begins to soften, its complexity undone, leaving strands that enzymes can cut into smaller chains. The main enzyme here is pepsin, born from an inactive precursor called pepsinogen. Acid activates it, shifting its form into something capable of breaking proteins into fragments called peptides. Together, acid and pepsin act like conductor and musician, one setting the stage, the other playing the melody of digestion. The stomach is not passive while these chemical reactions unfold. Its muscular walls contract rhythmically, stirring food with force but also with consistency, ensuring every fragment is touched by acid and enzymes. Food is kneaded into a smooth mixture called chyme, no longer recognizable as the meal it once was. Even here, balance is crucial. The stomach does not release acid recklessly. Secretion is controlled by signals from the brain, hormones such as gastrin, and local nerves. Too little acid, and digestion falters. Too much, and tissue risks injury. The body maintains a careful middle path, where strength is matched by safety. Protection comes from the lining itself, a thick coating of mucus and bicarbonate that shields cells from harm. Without it, the stomach would digest its own walls. This hidden armor allows power to be contained, destruction to be turned toward transformation rather than damage. Beyond digestion, the acidic environment serves another purpose: defense. Many bacteria and parasites that enter with food are destroyed before they can reach the intestines. The stomach is not only a chamber of nourishment, but also a fortress of immunity, filtering threats before they can cause harm. Reflection on this stage reveals a lesson: great power must be guided by control. Acid is fierce, yet the stomach wields it with precision. It is released only when needed, neutralized when excess arises, and balanced by layers of protection. In this, the stomach demonstrates wisdom, not in words, but in actions, repeated meal after meal. Imagine this chamber now, hidden deep within you. The food you last ate is no longer what it was. Proteins have been unraveled, pathogens dissolved, textures erased. What remains is a softened mixture, prepared for the intricate work that lies ahead in the small intestine. All of this happens without effort from you, without conscious command, a silent performance carried out in perfect rhythm. The stomach is conductor, musician, and guardian all at once. It directs the early movements of digestion, calls upon acids and enzymes, keeps time with muscular contractions, and shields the body from harm. Though often overlooked, it is here that digestion truly begins to sing. Hidden within every stage of digestion are quiet craftsmen, enzymes. They are not visible to the eye, nor do they make a sound. Yet without them, the transformation of food into usable energy would be impossible. Enzymes are proteins shaped with extraordinary precision. Their forms allow them to fit exactly onto the molecules they act upon, like a key sliding into a lock. With that fit, bonds are broken, nutrients are released, and the building blocks of life are made available. In the stomach, pepsin has already begun the first work on proteins, cutting long chains into smaller fragments. But as food moves toward the small intestine, a far greater cascade of enzymes will enter. The pancreas, a gland nestled behind the stomach, secretes an array of them, proteases to finish the work of breaking proteins into amino acids, lipases to split fats into glycerol and fatty acids, and amylases to reduce starches into simple sugars like glucose. Each enzyme has a task so specific that it cannot be replaced. Amylase cannot break proteins, pepsin cannot split fats. Their uniqueness is what makes digestion reliable. It is as though thousands of tiny specialists gather, each performing one role with care, each depending on the others to complete the whole process. This precision is matched by speed. Enzymes can catalyze reactions millions of times faster than they would occur otherwise. Without them, digestion would take days or weeks. With them, a meal is broken down within hours, nutrients flowing steadily into the bloodstream. Reflection here turns to patience and detail. Enzymes do not act in haste, but in exactness. They know their roles, their partners, their timing. In this way, they mirror the quiet workers of any great endeavor, artisans, builders, scribes, whose labor is often unseen, yet essential. It is worth considering that enzymes themselves are created from nutrients delivered by food. Proteins we consume provide the amino acids that later form enzymes. The process is circular. Food builds the very tools that allow future food to be used. The body sustains itself not only with energy, but with the materials to maintain its own machinery. Science sometimes calls enzymes biological catalysts, but in a meditative sense they can be thought of as guides, leading nutrients from complexity into simplicity. They do not force change, they allow it, lowering barriers, creating the conditions in which transformation can happen easily. As you reflect on their work, imagine this quiet army within you. Each enzyme is a unique figure, moving with precision, carrying out its task faithfully. They do not speak, yet they shape everything. They do not demand recognition, yet their absence would halt life itself. With enzymes at work, food is no longer just a meal. It is potential unlocked, fuel released, structure revealed. Their silent labor ensures that what you eat can become thought, movement, renewal. And in their patience, they remind us of a deeper truth. The most vital work is often the most invisible. After the stomach has finished its powerful work, the softened mixture of food, now called chyme, passes through the pyloric sphincter into the small intestine. Here, the atmosphere changes. Where the stomach is acidic and storm-like, the small intestine is purposeful and delicate. It is not a place of destruction but of absorption, where the body gathers what it needs and allows the rest to continue on. Stretching nearly 6 meters in length, the small intestine coils within the abdomen like a winding path through hidden terrain. Its surface is far from smooth. Inside, folds rise and fall, creating ridges that slow the passage of chyme and increase contact with the lining. Every curve and contour is designed for efficiency. Movement here is not random. The small intestine shifts chyme forward with peristaltic waves, but it also uses segmentation contractions, a back-and-forth motion that mixes food with digestive juices. This motion ensures that enzymes secreted from the pancreas and bile released from the gallbladder spread evenly, touching every particle. To imagine it, picture a gentle rhythm, a rocking that stirs and blends, like a hand slowly circling water in a bowl. The result of this motion is harmony. Food is not rushed through too quickly, nor does it linger too long. It moves with balance, giving the lining time to absorb nutrients while keeping the flow steady. This rhythm is why the small intestine has been called the true stage of digestion. It is where broken down molecules cross into the body, becoming part of us. Reflection invites us to see the small intestine as a kind of dance floor, where nutrients and enzymes meet in graceful choreography. There is no chaos here, only cooperation. Each contraction, each release, each swirl of fluid has a purpose, all tuned toward the single goal of nourishment. Science reveals just how effective this design is. If the small intestine were stretched out flat, its surface area, thanks to folds, villi, and microvilli, would cover an area larger than a tennis court. This vast expanse allows for extraordinary absorption, ensuring that every meal is used to its fullest. Such abundance of surface shows that the body values thoroughness, leaving little to waste. The dance of the small intestine is quiet, invisible to the senses. We do not feel the mixing, do not notice the waves of contraction, unless something goes wrong. And yet, this silence is part of its grace. The body performs its most delicate work in stillness, without fanfare. As you reflect, imagine this hidden passage winding inside you, a corridor alive with rhythm. Food that once seemed solid has become a stream, flowing through folds and curves, brushed gently against surfaces that absorb its essence. It is a scene of constant motion, but not hurried, a patient rhythm, one that honors both time and purpose. The small intestine teaches us that transformation is not only about power, as in the stomach, but about precision and pace. It is a dance, a balance of movement and stillness, of mixing and absorbing, and in its grace, it reminds us that even within, life unfolds with beauty. If the small intestine is a winding corridor, then its inner surface is a vast landscape, shaped not by smooth walls, but by countless tiny projections. These are the villi, finger-like extensions rising from the lining. Each one is covered with even smaller structures, the microvilli, creating a brush-like texture at the microscopic level. Together, they transform the intestine into a world of intricate detail, where absorption becomes possible on an astonishing scale. Each villus is a living structure. Inside it runs a network of blood vessels and lymphatic channels. As nutrients pass through the surface cells, they are carried into these vessels and swept away, joining the circulation of the body. Glucose and amino acids move into tiny capillaries, while fatty acids and other lipids slip into lymphatic vessels before merging later with the bloodstream. The villus is not simply a projection, it is a gateway, a bridge from the inner space of the intestine to the larger world of the body. The microvilli multiply this surface area to a staggering degree. Imagine a single room whose walls are folded and covered in carpets of fibers, each one reaching outward. The space available for absorption expands many times over, turning the intestine into one of the most efficient structures in biology. If stretched flat, the total absorptive surface would cover the area of a small house, all contained within the narrow coils of the abdomen. This design reveals a truth about the body. It values contact. The more surface it creates, the more opportunities it has to gather what is useful. Nothing is wasted. Every fold, every extension, every microscopic brush is there to make sure that nutrients are collected with care. Reflection here draws us to the unseen. The villi and microvilli are too small for the naked eye, yet their importance is immeasurable. We live because they work, because their silent movements pass molecules into the blood with every meal. They remind us that life depends not only on what we notice, but on what is hidden. The grand systems of the body rely on details so fine that we may never see them, yet they sustain us every day. These structures are also protective. The cells lining the villi form a barrier, choosing carefully what may enter. They absorb nutrients, but resist toxins. They take in what gives life and guard against what could harm. This selective permeability is another kind of wisdom, openness, balanced by discernment. Imagine, for a moment, walking through a meadow at dawn. Countless blades of grass rise around you, each swaying in the light. That image echoes the villi, a living field inside your body, bending not to wind but to the flow of chyme. On their surfaces, invisible exchanges take place, sugars slipping across, amino acids crossing membranes, lipids moving into vessels. The meadow is alive with quiet trade, every blade a conduit of life. As this stage of the journey unfolds, the listener is reminded of the elegance within. The villi and microvilli are not grand structures, not muscles or organs that command attention, but delicate extensions magnified into greatness by their number. In their vastness of surface, they reveal the secret of efficiency. In their silence, they reveal the secret of life itself. Among the many helpers in digestion, few are as quietly influential as bile. This greenish fluid, produced by the liver and stored in the gallbladder, enters the small intestine at just the right moment to handle one of the most challenging tasks of all, the digestion of fat. Without bile, oils and lipids would resist mixing with the watery environment of the intestine. They would remain in large, stubborn globules, difficult for enzymes to reach. Bile solves this problem with chemistry. It contains bile salts, molecules shaped with both water-loving and fat-loving ends. When they encounter fat, they break it apart into countless small droplets, a process called emulsification. This creates a much larger surface area for enzymes like lipase to act upon. The result is efficiency. Fat that once floated separately now mingles with the rest of digestion, ready to be dismantled and absorbed. The gallbladder acts as a reservoir, releasing bile in response to signals from the intestine when fatty food arrives. Its timing is precise. Too little bile, and digestion struggles. Too much, and balance is disturbed. The cooperation between liver, gallbladder, pancreas, and intestine shows the body's harmony. Different organs, each with distinct roles, working toward the same goal. Reflection here turns to collaboration. No single organ completes digestion alone. The stomach softens, the pancreas releases enzymes, the liver creates bile, and the gallbladder stores and delivers it. Digestion is not a solitary act, but a partnership, each system lending its skill. In this, the body mirrors the truth of life. Strength is often found in cooperation, in timing, in shared purpose. Bile also carries another function. It helps remove waste products. Substances like bilirubin, a byproduct of red blood cell breakdown, are secreted into bile and eliminated from the body. In this way, bile is both a helper of digestion and a channel of cleansing. It demonstrates again how one process in the body often serves many ends, weaving efficiency into every corner of life. The meditative imagery may be one of transformation through blending. Consider how oil and water normally separate, retreating from one another. Yet with bile salts as intermediaries, they mingle, form droplets, and open themselves to change. What was once resistant becomes available. There is a lesson in this chemistry. Sometimes connection requires a bridge, something that can touch both sides and bring them together. Picture the small intestine at this moment. Chyme, already softened by acid and enzymes, now infused with bile. Fats that seemed unyielding begin to dissolve into droplets, each one small enough for lipase to complete the task. Nutrients hidden deep within are now revealed, made ready for absorption. What once seemed impossible has become effortless, simply because of this quiet fluid. As the chapter closes, the emphasis rests on balance and partnership. Bile does not act alone, but in coordination with many others. Its work is not forceful but subtle, breaking down resistance and creating access. In this way, it is one of the most elegant tools of digestion, a gentle mediator turning separation into harmony. Tucked quietly behind the stomach lies an organ that rarely comes to mind, yet its influence extends through nearly every meal. The pancreas. Unlike the stomach, with its acids, or the liver, with its sweeping size, the pancreas works without drama, releasing its gifts in silence. It is the quiet creator of balance, an organ that supports digestion in ways both immediate and enduring. The pancreas carries two identities. Its exocrine cells secrete digestive enzymes into the small intestine, while its endocrine cells release hormones directly into the blood. These dual roles make it unique, a bridge between systems. On one side, it contributes to the breakdown of food. On the other, it regulates the energy that food provides. In its digestive role, the pancreas releases amylase, proteases, and lipase, enzymes that finalize the work begun earlier in the mouth and stomach. These enzymes act on carbohydrates, proteins, and fats, reducing them to their simplest forms: glucose, amino acids, and fatty acids. Each secretion is carefully timed, triggered when chyme enters the small intestine. The precision ensures that nutrients are not wasted, and that food moves steadily toward absorption. Equally vital are the bicarbonate ions the pancreas produces. These alkaline secretions neutralize the acidic chyme arriving from the stomach, creating an environment where enzymes can function properly. Without this shift in pH, the powerful acid that once protected and dissolved would now burn and damage. Neutralization is as important as digestion itself, turning a hostile environment into a welcoming one. The endocrine cells of the pancreas bring another layer of mastery. Here, clusters of cells called the islets of Langerhans produce hormones such as insulin and glucagon. Insulin helps move glucose from the blood into cells, while glucagon signals the liver to release stored sugar when levels fall. Together, they balance blood sugar, ensuring the body has steady energy. It is a system so precise that even small disruptions can affect the entire organism. Reflection turns to the theme of quiet authority. The pancreas does not announce itself. It does not churn like the stomach or stretch like the intestines. Its presence is almost hidden, yet without it, digestion falters and energy balance collapses. The pancreas reminds us that influence does not need spectacle. Quiet work, done with precision, sustains life just as surely as the more obvious forces. In its duality, the pancreas also teaches balance. It holds the line between digestion and metabolism, between the breaking down of food and the distribution of its energy. It is both workshop and messenger, both craftsman and regulator. This dual role illustrates the body's wisdom, to entrust one organ with two related, yet distinct tasks that must remain in harmony. Imagine, for a moment, this hidden organ working as you sit or lie in rest. Enzymes are released, neutralizers flow, hormones drift into the bloodstream. None of this asks for your attention. None requires command. The pancreas works whether you think of it or not, holding balance in the background of life. As this chapter concludes, the listener is invited to see the pancreas not as obscure, but as quietly central, a creator that builds harmony from behind the scenes. In its silence lies its power, and in its constancy lies its gift. By the time chyme has moved through the winding passages of the small intestine, enzymes and bile have done their work. Proteins have been reduced to amino acids, carbohydrates to simple sugars, and fats to fatty acids and glycerol. What remains is no longer food in the ordinary sense, but the building blocks of life. Now begins another transformation, the movement of these nutrients into the bloodstream, where they will be carried to every corner of the body. Absorption occurs through the lining of the small intestine, across the villi and microvilli that reach outward like a living field. Each villus contains a network of capillaries and lymphatic vessels, ready to receive what has been prepared. Sugars and amino acids slip easily into the capillaries, dissolving into the blood's flowing stream. Fats, less soluble, are gathered into the lymphatic channels called lacteals, where they begin a slower journey before eventually merging with the blood. This passage is more than transport, it is selection. The cells of the intestinal lining act as gatekeepers, choosing what may enter, blocking what must remain outside. Their choices are guided by chemistry and defense, ensuring that nourishment is accepted while toxins and pathogens are held back. In this way, absorption is not passive but deliberate, a moment of discernment at the threshold of the inner world. Once within the blood, nutrients travel first to the liver through the portal vein. There, they are processed, stored, or redirected as needed. Glucose may be kept for later as glycogen, amino acids may be reassembled into new proteins, and fats may be packaged into forms that the body can use. The liver is both storehouse and distributor, making sure that what enters the body's circulation does so wisely. The imagery here is of rivers and tributaries. Each nutrient is like a drop of water, slipping into larger streams, carried forward with countless others. From the smallest capillary in the villi to the branching vessels of the portal system, this flow is steady and constant, a hidden river running through us at every moment. Reflection turns to gratitude. Every heartbeat, every movement, every thought depends on this flow. We rarely notice it, yet the circulation of nutrients sustains not only survival but vitality. To think, to breathe, to heal, to dream, all of these draw energy from molecules that once were part of food, now dissolved into the self. This stage of digestion also reminds us of interconnectedness. What we eat does not remain separate, but becomes part of us. The grain in bread, the fruit from a tree, the protein of plants or animals, each is transformed into energy and structure within our bodies. In this sense, digestion is not only a biological process, but also a joining, a reminder that life is shared across boundaries. Imagine the nutrients at this moment, countless particles moving quietly into the blood, joining the great flow of circulation. They do not announce themselves, yet they bring strength, warmth, and renewal. Each drop matters, each molecule finds a place. The hidden rivers continue, without pause, without fail. While enzymes, acids, and bile take much of the credit for digestion, another community works quietly alongside them, a vast ecosystem living within us. This is the microbiome, trillions of bacteria, fungi, viruses, and archaea inhabiting the digestive tract. Their number rivals that of our own human cells, and their collective genes outnumber ours by hundreds of times. To reflect on this is to realize that we are not alone inside, we are hosts to an entire world. These microbes perform tasks we cannot manage on our own. They digest fibers that resist human enzymes, fermenting them into short-chain fatty acids that nourish cells of the intestine. They synthesize vitamins such as K and some of the B group, adding to the nutrients we absorb. They help train the immune system, teaching it to distinguish friend from foe. Each species has its specialty. Some excel at breaking down complex carbohydrates, others at producing protective compounds, others at maintaining the balance of the gut lining. Together, they form a living network, an invisible society where cooperation and competition shape outcomes. When in balance, this society supports health. When disturbed, through poor diet, illness, or antibiotics, imbalance can bring discomfort or disease. Reflection here turns to diversity. Just as a forest thrives when many species coexist, so too does the microbiome flourish when varied voices are present. A single dominant strain cannot do the work alone. It is the harmony of differences that sustains resilience. The lesson is clear. Strength often comes not from uniformity, but from variety. The microbiome also communicates with the brain. Through chemical messengers and the vagus nerve, it influences mood, appetite, and even behavior. Some microbes produce neurotransmitters like serotonin, shaping emotions in subtle ways. In this sense, the microbiome is not only a digestive partner, but also a participant in the wider dialogue of the body. Imagine, for a moment, this inner community as a bustling marketplace. Countless stalls, countless voices, each offering something unique. The air is alive with exchange, trade, and conversation. No single voice dominates, but together they create a hum of activity that sustains the whole. That is the soundless music of the microbiome. Millions of voices, working quietly within. It is humbling to know that so much of our well-being depends on creatures we cannot see. They remind us that health is not simply individual but shared. Within us, as outside of us, life is built on connection, on partnerships both visible and invisible. As digestion continues, the microbiome plays its part tirelessly. It asks for little but responds to what we provide. A diet rich in fiber and variety feeds its diversity. A diet limited or processed may narrow its richness. In this we hold a kind of stewardship, caring for the community that in turn cares for us. As this stage unfolds, let the thoughts settle gently. Within you lives a chorus of life, unseen yet essential. They are not intruders, but partners. They are not silent, but their voices are too small for the ear. Together, they help write the story of digestion, one microscopic exchange at a time. Deep within the intestines lies one of the body's greatest defenses. While we often think of digestion as a process of nourishment, it is also a process of protection. Nearly 70% of the body's immune cells are stationed in the gut, forming a vast defense system that watches over every meal, every sip, every substance that passes through. This is no accident. The digestive tract is a place of constant exposure to the outside world. With every bite of food, we invite in not only nutrients but also potential threats, bacteria, viruses, toxins, and fragments the body must evaluate. The immune system here is like a watchful guard at the border, checking each arrival, welcoming what is safe, rejecting what is harmful. Specialized tissues, such as Peyer's patches, dot the walls of the intestine. They contain clusters of immune cells ready to sample and assess. When something suspicious appears, signals spread through chemical messengers, summoning reinforcements. Antibodies are produced, barriers are strengthened, and inflammation rises to fight intrusion. Yet at the same time, tolerance is carefully maintained so that harmless food molecules and beneficial microbes are not attacked. This delicate balance, defense without overreaction, is one of the marvels of gut immunity. If the immune system were too aggressive, every meal would spark conflict. If it were too passive, invaders would overwhelm us. Instead, it holds a middle path, protective yet measured, fierce yet discerning. Reflection here points to the wisdom of discernment. To live well is not to accept everything without question, nor to reject everything in fear. It is to evaluate carefully, to recognize what supports us and what undermines us. The gut shows this lesson in action with every bite we eat. The lining of the intestine itself is part of this defense. Its cells form tight junctions, sealing together like bricks in a wall. These junctions prevent unwanted substances from slipping through, while still allowing nutrients to pass. The wall is not rigid, but alive, adjusting to conditions, repairing itself, renewing daily. It is both barrier and gateway, strong yet flexible. Microbes play their part too. Many beneficial bacteria compete with harmful ones, producing compounds that inhibit invaders and supporting the immune system's vigilance. In this way, the microbiome and immunity are partners, one enhancing the other. Imagine this system as a city wall, patrolled day and night. Guards stand watch, gates open and close, scouts report back with news of what approaches. Yet inside the walls, life continues in peace, protected by this constant vigilance. We are rarely aware of the watch, but without it, the city would not stand. Reflect on the comfort of this hidden protection. Even now, as you sit or lie in rest, millions of immune cells within your gut are watching, choosing, defending. They work without your command, without your awareness, keeping you safe with every passing moment. In the silence of digestion, immunity is at work, shaping balance, guarding against harm. It is a reminder that within you lives not only the power to absorb life, but also the power to protect it. So much has already unfolded on this journey, from the power of stomach acids to the precision of enzymes, from the winding corridors of the small intestine to the microscopic forests of villi, from the voices of the microbiome to the steadfast guards of immunity. Digestion has revealed itself as both intricate and wondrous. This chapter is not about a new process, but about stillness. It is a pause, a moment to gather what has been shared, to breathe within the rhythm of the body. Just as the stomach holds chyme before releasing it onward, we, too, can pause between movements, resting in the quiet space where transformation has already begun. The work inside continues without rush. Enzymes break bonds, microbes ferment fibers, immune cells watch in silence. You do not need to will it. You do not need to control it. The body moves on its own time, guided by systems older than memory. In this lies a lesson. Not everything requires effort. Much of life unfolds when we allow rather than force. This is also the place to remind you of rest. Digestion is called the rest and digest state for good reason. When the body finds calm, when the nervous system shifts away from urgency, digestion thrives. And so does sleep. The two are companions, each supporting the other, each reminding us that renewal happens not in haste but in stillness. If sleep has already arrived for you, let it carry you deeper. If it has not yet come, trust that it will, as naturally as the next heartbeat. The body does not treat digestion as a mechanical task, but as a cycle of harmony. It prepares, it transforms, it selects, it protects. Each part waits for the other, no stage pushing ahead before its time. We often think progress means constant motion, but here the body shows another truth. Progress can also mean patience. Imagine yourself standing at the midpoint of a long path. Behind you lies the work of breaking down, softening, dissolving. Ahead lies the absorption of energy, the renewal of cells, the rhythms of balance. Between these is a resting place, neither beginning nor end, a place to breathe and simply be. That is what this chapter offers. In the quiet, there is gratitude. Gratitude for enzymes that labor unseen, for microbes that share their wisdom, for barriers that keep you safe. Gratitude for the very act of nourishment, turning what was once outside into the essence of life within. Gratitude, too, for the chance to rest, to reflect, to let the story carry you rather than rushing to its end. As this pause unfolds, let it be gentle. Let it remind you that even in stillness, much is happening. Even in silence, voices work within. Even in waiting, transformation continues. And in that recognition, may you feel a sense of calm, the same calm that allows digestion to flourish, the same calm that welcomes sleep. By the time nutrients have crossed the lining of the small intestine and entered the bloodstream, they are no longer food as we know it. They are fragments, amino acids, glucose, fatty acids, glycerol, each small enough to slip into cells. What happens next is one of the most extraordinary processes in biology: the creation of energy. Inside every cell are tiny structures called mitochondria. Often described as the powerhouses of the cell, they are more than engines. They are ancient partners, descended from bacteria that long ago joined with early life. Their task is to convert nutrients into adenosine triphosphate, or ATP, the molecule that fuels nearly everything we do. The path to ATP involves several stages. Glucose first enters glycolysis, a series of reactions in the cell's cytoplasm that split it into smaller molecules, releasing a small amount of energy. These products then enter the Krebs cycle, a circular pathway that strips away electrons, gathering them into carriers. Finally, those electrons travel down the electron transport chain, where their energy pumps protons across a membrane. When they flow back, like water turning a wheel, ATP is formed. It is chemistry transformed into motion, motion transformed into power. Fatty acids follow their own path, broken into smaller units that also feed into the Krebs cycle. Proteins, when needed, can be dismantled into amino acids and diverted into these same pathways. All energy sources converge here, funneled into the quiet rhythm of mitochondria, where breath itself meets fuel to sustain life. Reflection turns to wonder. Every heartbeat, every blink, every thought is powered by ATP. Muscles contract because of it, nerves fire because of it, healing happens because of it. And each molecule of ATP lasts only briefly before being used and remade again. At any given moment, your body contains only a small supply, yet it produces and consumes its weight in ATP many times over each day. It is a cycle of renewal, constant and unbroken. The lesson is one of transformation. What was once bread or fruit, oil or grain, has become invisible sparks of energy, carried through cells, driving every act of living. Nourishment is not only about sustenance but about change, the outer world dissolved, reshaped, and reborn as inner vitality. To imagine this, picture countless wheels turning silently within you, each powered by the flow of electrons, each creating the force that keeps you alive. No sound is heard, no light is seen, but the activity never stops. The body is a living constellation of energy, every cell a star burning quietly in the dark. As this stage unfolds, you are reminded that life itself is motion, sustained not by force alone but by transformation. Energy is borrowed from the world around you, shaped into ATP, used, and released again. The cycle is endless, ancient, and dependable, and through it, what you eat becomes thought, movement, memory, and dream. Among the body's many organs, few are as tireless or versatile as the liver. It is the largest internal organ, weighing more than a kilogram, yet it rarely makes itself known. It does not beat like the heart or move like the lungs, but it works continuously, 24 hours a day, filtering, storing, and protecting. If the stomach is a chamber of transformation, the liver is a guardian, steady, patient, and indispensable. Every nutrient absorbed from the intestine flows first to the liver through the portal vein. Here, molecules are not simply passed along but examined, sorted, and adjusted. Glucose may be stored as glycogen for later use. Amino acids may be reassembled into proteins the body requires. Fats may be packaged into forms that can travel safely through the blood. Nothing enters the wider circulation without passing through this checkpoint. The liver also acts as a detoxifier. Harmful compounds, whether produced inside the body or introduced from the outside, are broken down or neutralized here. Alcohol, medications, and toxins all pass through its enzymatic systems, where they are dismantled into safer forms. The process is not perfect, but without it, poisons would quickly accumulate. The liver works silently as a filter, protecting the body meal after meal, day after day. Another of its tasks is the production of bile. We met bile earlier in the small intestine, but its origin lies here, within the intricate folds of the liver. With every secretion, the liver contributes not only to digestion but also to the removal of waste. Substances like bilirubin, the yellow pigment formed from red blood cell breakdown, are carried away through bile, giving stool its color. In this way, the liver links digestion with cleansing, nourishment with renewal. Reflection turns to the theme of guardianship. The liver is vigilant yet quiet. It does not seek attention, though its absence would quickly be felt. It is strong enough to regenerate when injured, one of the few organs capable of rebuilding itself. Even when part of it is removed, the remainder grows to restore function. This resilience is a reminder of the body's capacity for healing. Consider the image of a lighthouse on a rocky shore. It does not move the waves or stop the storms, but it stands watch, guiding ships safely past danger. The liver performs a similar role within, steady and enduring, guarding the body against harm while guiding nutrients toward usefulness. For the listener, the comfort lies in knowing that this protection is constant. Even as you rest, even as you sleep, the liver filters blood, stores energy, neutralizes toxins, and prepares tomorrow's supply. It is a silent guardian, asking for nothing, giving endlessly. As this chapter draws to its close, imagine the liver not as a hidden organ, but as a watchful companion, always present, always working. It is proof that strength does not need to be loud, and that guardianship can be carried out in silence. After the small intestine has gathered most of the nutrients, what remains of the meal passes into the large intestine. Here, the work is different. No longer focused on breaking food into molecules for absorption, the large intestine specializes in reclaiming what is still valuable: water, electrolytes, and the subtle products of microbial fermentation. It is the place of consolidation, where the body gathers what remains and prepares to release what it no longer needs. The large intestine stretches for about 1.5 meters, wider in diameter than the small intestine but shorter in length. Its walls are muscular, moving with slow contractions that push material steadily forward. Unlike the rapid mixing of the small intestine, the large intestine follows a gentler rhythm, more deliberate and measured. These waves of motion, called haustral contractions, roll contents from one pouch-like section to the next, a patient rhythm that can last for hours. Here, bacteria play a central role once again. Many fibers that resisted digestion earlier are fermented into short-chain fatty acids, which nourish cells lining the colon and even provide energy to the body. Gases are produced too, the natural byproducts of this fermentation. What might seem like waste is, in fact, a form of recycling, where the body takes one last gift from what cannot be fully broken down. Water absorption is another key task. As fluid is drawn out, material gradually firms, changing from liquid chyme into solid stool. Electrolytes, like sodium and potassium, are reclaimed, maintaining the body's balance. Nothing is wasted if it can be used. Reflection here touches on patience. The large intestine moves slowly, unhurried, giving time for absorption and fermentation. It reminds us that not everything valuable is immediate. Sometimes what matters most is gathered in the final stages, through careful waiting and measured rhythm. There is also a sense of closure here. The large intestine prepares what remains for release, shaping it into a form that can leave the body safely. This is not a rejection but a completion, the final stage of digestion's cycle. What cannot serve us is released, making room for what will come next. Imagine this organ as a quiet drumbeat, steady and calm. Where the small intestine danced with quick steps, the large intestine takes slow, grounding ones. Its rhythm is not flashy, but essential, marking time in hours rather than minutes, working with patience rather than speed. The lesson is simple. Value does not always lie in the beginning or the middle. Often, it emerges at the end, when what has been gathered is sorted, when what can be saved is kept, and what cannot is let go. The large intestine embodies this truth with every meal, every day. Inside the large intestine, one of the most important tasks is also one of the simplest, the reclamation of water. Every meal begins as solid food, yet by the time it reaches the colon, it has been churned, dissolved, and mixed into a fluid mass. Without the large intestine, this water would be lost. Instead, the body reabsorbs it, sip by sip, until what remains can be released safely. The lining of the colon is covered with cells designed to draw water back into the bloodstream. Along with water come electrolytes like sodium, chloride, and potassium, carefully balanced so that circulation remains steady. These absorptions may seem minor compared to the drama of enzymes and acids, but without them, life would not be sustainable. Every day, liters of fluid are recovered here. The process is patient, gradual. As material passes from one section of the colon to the next, more water is removed. Softness turns to firmness. Fluid becomes structure. This change is not abrupt but continuous, like sand drying slowly in the sun, each grain shifting texture as the moisture fades. Due to the simplicity of this work, water is often overlooked in digestion, yet it is the medium through which everything else moves. Nutrients dissolve in it, enzymes act within it, circulation depends on it. Without water, digestion would stall at the very beginning. The large intestine's task is not glamorous, but it ensures that balance is preserved. This stage also reveals how finely tuned the body is. Absorb too little water, and the stool remains loose, moving too quickly. Absorb too much, and it becomes hard, difficult to pass. Between these extremes lies harmony, a narrow band of balance, maintained by millions of tiny exchanges across the colon's lining. Imagine this process as a quiet act of gathering. The body collects droplets one by one, storing them safely, sending them back into circulation. Nothing is wasted, nothing overlooked. Even at the end of digestion, the body finds value in what remains. Often, the simplest elements carry the greatest weight. Water, so ordinary, is also indispensable. It shapes every system, sustains every cell, and makes digestion possible from beginning to end. By reclaiming it, the large intestine closes the loop, ensuring that what we borrow from the world is used wisely. Picture a slow tide retreating from the shore, leaving behind firmness where once there was fluid. That is the work of the colon, gentle, patient, and essential. It is not a dramatic transformation, but a necessary one, turning the last remnants of a meal into something that can safely leave the body. Digestion is a cycle, and every cycle must find its close. After nutrients have been absorbed and water reclaimed, what remains of the meal is no longer food but waste, a collection of fibers, microbial remnants, pigments, and substances the body does not need. The journey that began with hunger and taste now approaches its final stage, release. The large intestine gathers this material into the rectum, a chamber that waits until the moment is right. Muscles in the colon guide the remnants forward through mass movements, strong contractions that sweep material along in waves. Unlike the constant activity of the small intestine, these motions occur a few times a day, shifting contents toward completion. At the rectum, sensory nerves awaken, signaling fullness. The body does not rush. Sphincters hold the passage closed until choice and circumstance align. When the time comes, muscles relax in coordination, and the waste that once was food passes out of the body. It is an act as natural as breathing, yet often overlooked, hidden in silence and routine. This stage carries dignity as much as function. To eliminate is to let go of what no longer serves us, to clear space for what will nourish us next. In biology, it prevents the buildup of toxins and waste. In reflection, it symbolizes release, the wisdom of not holding on to what has already given all it can. Waste itself tells a story. Its color, shape, and consistency reveal how well digestion has worked, whether balance has been maintained, whether water and nutrients have been reclaimed with precision. Physicians throughout history have read these signs, understanding that even the end of the digestive cycle speaks of the health of the whole. There is poetry in the completeness of this process, from the anticipation of hunger to the absorption of energy, and finally to release. Digestion forms a circle. Each stage prepares for the next, each task leads into another, and nothing continues forever. What is useful becomes part of us. What is not is set free. Imagine the body here as a careful steward. It takes what it needs, guards what is vital, and lets go of the rest. This stewardship keeps us clean within, preventing stagnation, ensuring renewal. Life depends not only on taking in, but also on releasing, on cycles that begin and end without interruption. To reflect on this final act is to recognize its balance. Holding too long brings discomfort, letting go too soon brings disorder. The body finds the middle path, guided by nerves, muscles, and rhythm. This quiet wisdom reminds us that balance is not only about what we receive, but also about what we release. And so the journey of digestion completes itself. What began as desire and taste has ended as renewal and release. The cycle is not glamorous, but it is essential. The quiet work of life continuing, meal after meal, day after day. The purpose of digestion is not only to break food apart, but to transform it into movement, warmth, and thought. By this stage, nutrients have entered the blood, the liver has balanced their flow, and mitochondria within cells have begun their quiet work of producing ATP. Now those molecules of energy spread outward, fueling every action, from the smallest twitch of muscle to the longest stride. Energy is not stored in the body as light or heat, but as chemical bonds, ready to be released. Each molecule of ATP holds a burst of potential, and when the bond is broken, energy is freed. Muscles contract because of this release. Nerves fire, memories are encoded, and the steady rhythm of the heart continues without pause. Consider walking. Each step requires countless ATP molecules to be used and remade in fractions of a second. The same is true for speaking, for blinking, for even the stillness of lying in bed, where muscles maintain posture and the lungs continue to expand and contract. Energy is not something summoned only in great exertion. It flows constantly, quietly, sustaining even rest. The sources of this energy vary with activity. Carbohydrates provide quick fuel, glucose entering cells and being burned rapidly. Fats yield more energy per gram but are slower to release, serving as the reserve for endurance and long-term balance. Proteins are tapped only when necessary, their building blocks too valuable for structure and repair to be used casually for fuel. The body shifts seamlessly between these sources, adjusting to need, ensuring that energy is always at hand. The body does not cling to one method but moves fluidly between many, an example of resilience woven into biology. Flexibility allows survival, not only in digestion but in life. To change pathways, to draw from different sources, to adapt, these are marks of strength. Energy is not confined to the physical. Neurons burn glucose at a remarkable rate, even in stillness. The brain, though only a fraction of body weight, consumes a fifth of all energy produced. Thought itself, memory itself, emotion itself, all are forms of energy transformed from food. In this sense, what we eat becomes not only movement but imagination, not only strength but reflection. Picture the body now as a landscape of quiet fires, each cell a small flame sustained by ATP. Together, they form a constellation, glowing without pause, lighting the unseen world within. No single flame is bright enough to be noticed, yet collectively they sustain every breath, every gesture, every dream. The lesson is clear. Digestion is not an end but a means, the bridge between the outer world and the inner life. What began as a meal has become vitality, flowing through blood and cells, rising into thought and motion. Energy is the hidden current that carries us forward, always renewing, always present. Energy does not serve movement alone. Just as important is what happens when the body turns inward, using energy not to act but to restore. This is the quiet labor of repair, and it unfolds most deeply when we rest, when sleep gathers us into stillness. During sleep, digestion slows, yet the work of renewal begins in earnest. Cells repair the day's small damages, DNA strands are checked and mended, proteins are rebuilt. Muscles knit themselves stronger, tissues renew their structure, and the brain clears away waste products left from thought and memory. What seems like stillness on the outside is, in truth, one of the busiest times within. Energy is redirected during these hours. Instead of fueling movement or conscious thought, ATP powers repair crews inside every cell. The immune system strengthens its defenses, learning from the day's encounters. The liver processes and stores nutrients with patience. Even the microbiome shifts its activity, fermenting fibers more deeply, producing compounds that calm inflammation. We are not designed for endless activity. The rhythm of life includes both motion and pause, both effort and renewal. In this balance lies health. Digestion itself is a rhythm. Chew, swallow, churn, absorb, release, and sleep is its partner, the time when digestion's gains are fully integrated into the self. Sleep also connects to memory and learning. The brain reorganizes experiences, consolidating knowledge, weaving emotion with thought. The glucose that fueled neurons during the day is used again, now in the service of integration rather than reaction. The meal that once gave energy for action now sustains reflection and dream. Imagine the body in this state, muscles slack, breath steady, yet within, 1,000 small tasks are being completed. Like a city at night, quiet on the streets but alive in hidden workshops, the body restores itself silently. Lights glow in the unseen factories of mitochondria, repairing, replenishing, preparing for the next day. The lesson here is trust. Sleep cannot be forced, just as digestion cannot be commanded. Both arrive naturally, guided by rhythms older than thought. To rest is to step out of the way, allowing the body's intelligence to carry on. If sleep has already come, the work is already underway. If it has not, there is no need to chase it. It will arrive in its own time, as faithful as morning. Through sleep, food becomes more than energy. It becomes resilience, clarity, and healing. The body, given quiet and time, reshapes itself, integrating nourishment into strength. The hidden fires of energy burn steadily, not to exhaust but to rebuild. Digestion does not end with the release of energy or the passing of waste. It completes itself in renewal, in the way nutrients are woven into the body's fabric. Proteins become enzymes and muscles, carbohydrates fuel thought and motion, fats form the walls of cells and the coverings of nerves. Every meal reshapes us, not just for today but for the days to come. This is the quiet miracle. We are rebuilt constantly from what we eat. Bones are strengthened with minerals, blood replenished with iron, skin renewed with layers of protein and fat. Even the lining of the intestine itself, which works so tirelessly to absorb, is replaced every few days, crafted from the very nutrients it has drawn in. Renewal is not occasional but continuous, a cycle without pause. Reflection here reminds us that life is never static. Cells die and are replaced, tissues break down and are restored, memories fade and new ones form. The body does not remain fixed but is always becoming shaped by what we provide. What we eat is not only fuel but also material, the scaffolding upon which life is built again and again. This cycle is not one of wastefulness but of precision. Nutrients are directed exactly where they are needed. Amino acids travel to muscles recovering from effort, glucose flows to the brain to sustain thought, fatty acids join membranes to maintain their flexibility. Nothing moves without purpose. Even what cannot be used now may be stored for later, kept in readiness until the time arrives. Imagine, for a moment, a tapestry being woven thread by thread. Each thread is different in color and texture, but together they form a pattern, a living image. That tapestry is you, shaped each day by meals, by moments, by choices. Renewal is not sudden, but gradual, woven steadily in silence. There is comfort in this constancy. No single meal defines us, No single day of nourishment or neglect fixes the course forever. The cycle of renewal gives us many chances, many beginnings. Each time we eat, we participate in the ongoing creation of the self. Each time we rest, the work of weaving continues. The lesson is one of patience and possibility. Change does not happen all at once, but it happens nonetheless. The body, through digestion and renewal, demonstrates this truth daily. What was once part of the world outside is now part of you, integrated into your strength, your thought, your very being. Digestion, then, is not just the story of breaking down, but of building up. It is not only a cycle of consumption, but also a cycle of creation. In this it mirrors life itself, endings and beginnings, loss and renewal, woven together into one continuous whole. Digestion is never the work of a single organ. From the first taste of food to its final release, many systems cooperate: nervous, endocrine, muscular, immune, and microbial. Each has its role, yet none can function fully on its own. It is in their harmony that digestion becomes possible. The nervous system directs much of this rhythm. Signals flow from brain to stomach, from intestine to spinal cord, guiding secretions, contractions, and timing. Even without conscious thought, these signals create order, ensuring that acids are released when food arrives, and that muscles move chyme at the right pace. This is sometimes called the enteric nervous system, a network so intricate it has been nicknamed the second brain. It acts with independence, yet in constant conversation with the central nervous system. Hormones carry another voice. Gastrin, secretin, cholecystokinin, and many more drift through the blood, signaling the stomach to produce acid, the pancreas to release enzymes, the gallbladder to empty bile. These messengers link distant organs, keeping each step coordinated. Without them, digestion would be a series of disconnected acts. With them, it becomes a unified performance. Muscles provide the motion. From the jaw's powerful bite to the stomach's churning and the intestine's waves, muscles propel, mix, and transform. They are the silent movers of the process, tirelessly repeating their work without pause. The immune system adds its vigilance. Guard cells within the intestine watch every particle that crosses, discerning between nourishment and danger. Their choices shape not only digestion but overall health, teaching tolerance while defending against threat. And alongside all of these live the trillions of microbes that form the microbiome. They do not act alone but in concert with human cells, producing compounds, aiding fermentation, and balancing the community of the gut. Their voices join the larger chorus, adding richness and depth to digestion's work. Reflection here turns to the theme of harmony. Digestion is not one act but many, not one voice but a choir. Each system, nervous, endocrine, muscular, immune, microbial, has its part, distinct yet interwoven. Harmony does not mean uniformity, it means difference, moving together with purpose. Imagine an orchestra, not of violins and drums, but of nerves, enzymes, muscles, and microbes. Each follows its own rhythm, yet all converge into one living process. No single part dominates, yet none is dispensable. It is in their cooperation that digestion becomes seamless, that nourishment becomes possible. This harmony extends beyond digestion itself. The same nervous system that guides the stomach also shapes mood. The same hormones that trigger enzymes also influence appetite. The same immune cells that guard the intestine also shape the body's overall balance. Nothing stands alone. There is wisdom in this interconnectedness. Life is not built on isolated parts, but on relationships. Digestion demonstrates this truth quietly, meal after meal. Its harmony is not forced but natural, arising from cooperation that has evolved over millions of years. As reflection settles, consider that harmony is not the absence of difference, but the weaving of difference into balance. That is what digestion shows us. A union of many voices, working together, sustaining life. From hunger's first whisper to the body's quiet renewal, the journey of digestion has unfolded as a story of transformation. It is a process at once, ordinary and extraordinary, happening with every meal, yet layered with mysteries and harmonies that few stop to notice. Now, As we arrive at the final chapter, we can see digestion for what it truly is, not just a chain of steps, but a symphony of life. This symphony has many movements. The senses begin with anticipation, stirring saliva and awakening desire. Chewing and swallowing carry food inward with grace and precision. The stomach, with its acids and enzymes, breaks down what once seemed solid and unyielding. The small intestine extends its vast surface, absorbing with patience and care. The liver, pancreas, and gallbladder offer their quiet contributions, guiding balance and release. And finally, the large intestine completes the cycle, reclaiming water, shaping closure, and allowing the body to let go. Yet the music of digestion does not belong to organs alone. It includes the trillions of microbes that sing their own parts, fermenting, shaping, teaching. It includes the immune cells, vigilant and discerning, adding protection to the melody. It includes the hormones and nerves, messengers and conductors, ensuring that each section plays in time. The harmony is vast, and every note has its place. Every heartbeat, every thought, every dream you have is powered by this hidden symphony. The bread you ate this morning, the fruit from yesterday, the water reclaimed quietly in your colon. All of it has been woven into motion, memory, and renewal. Life continues not through grand gestures, but through these countless small transformations. Imagine this symphony as one without audience or applause. It plays endlessly, day and night, without pause, whether you notice it or not. It is not concerned with recognition. Its purpose is simply to sustain you, to carry you forward, to make possible every step and every silence. The lesson it leaves is one of humility. Within you, a harmony greater than any orchestra is at work. Its musicians are enzymes and microbes. Its instruments are muscles and glands. Its conductor is the rhythm of life itself. It does not falter when you sleep. It does not demand your awareness. Yet without it, there could be no waking, no motion, no thought. As we leave this journey, the body's symphony continues. Meals will come and go, cycles will repeat, and with each, the same hidden music will play again. It is ancient, dependable, and profound, a reminder that the ordinary act of eating is woven with mystery and grace. And so, with gratitude for the processes that sustain us, we come to rest. The story has ended, but digestion continues, patient and faithful, a symphony carried within. We from Sleeping with Science wish you a good night.